Good day, everyone, and welcome to Readings in Philippine History. Today, we are going to discuss the case study number 8. Is Baclayon Church the oldest in the Philippines?
The question of whether Baclayon Church is the oldest church in the Philippines opens a deeper exploration in the country's colonial past, religious heritage, and architectural evolutions. Established during the early years of Spanish rule, Baclayon Church in Bohol is often celebrated one of the oldest surviving churches into the nation. However, determining if it is truly holds the title of the oldest requires careful consideration of current structure or the continuity of religious views. Pinaagi sa maong pagsusi, masabtan pag-ayo ang tinuod nga lugar sa Baclayon Church sulod sa kasaysayan sa Pilipinas, dili lamang isip usa ka karaang simbahan kundi usab isip saksi sa pag-uswag sa kolonyal nga panahon, pagtuo o kultural nga kabilin sa nasod. Paniini ang maong panaghisgot nagpadayag sa mas halapad nga sugilanon sa unang kristyanisasyon sa kapuputan, usa ka mahinungdanong proseso nga makamugna sa dakong impluwensya sa relihiyon, arkitektura ug pagkaila sa Pilipino katilingban hangtod sa kasamtangan.
But before we delve deeper on the topic, let us first read and understand our learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, the 85% of BS Ed Social Studies 1-1 are expected to identify the historical background of Baclayon Church and other early churches, compare historical churches in the Philippines, show appreciation for the cultural and historical significance of Baclayon Church and other historical churches here in the Philippines, and discover what is the oldest church in the Philippines.
Good day, everyone. I am Catherine Faith P. Imboy, and for my part, we're gonna talk about the foundation or the background of the Baclayon Church, on how it was made and what are the materials na gamit sa paghimuan as well as the things na makita na to inside and outside of the church nga nakapakumpleto sa history sa Baclayon Church. So on November 17, 1596, in Baclayon, Bohol, a first mission of Christianity in Bohol was formally established by Father Juan de Torres and Father Gabriel Sanchez, and both of them is Jesuit. So katong nga mission was undertaken upon the request of Doña Catalina de Bolianos, mother of Pedro de Gamboa. So kani si Pedro de Gamboa is isa siya sa mga encomendero. So, misag encomendero, someone who has the right to enforce forced labor. So, naa siya right nga magpatukod or naa siya right nga mukha ng request sa mga katawhan nga naipatukod nga something or unsa pa na nga kanang estruktura. The first church was made of wood to honor the Immaculate Conception, and then it became a full parish in 1717. So, before pa kuno ng stone church nga present dira sa Baclayon, ang first pa daw jud nga kanang simbahan is made of wood pa daw kuno to honor Immaculate Conception. But then, even the wood pa siya, considered siya nga full parish in 1717. So, later on, adto na sila nagsugod og tukod sa stone church nga nahuman og built in 1727, and it was managed by the Augustinian Recollects in 1768. The Baclayon Church was considered one of the most oldest stone church in the Philippines that are still intact often more than 400 years from now. So kanang Baclayon Church is considered na siya as isa sa pinakatiguang or isa sa pinakadaan nga simbahan nga present diri sa Pilipinas nga until now present gihapon, di ba? 400 years na ang nakalipas, but until now naagyapon, present gihapon siya. So isa pod siya sa pito ka original nga mga churches nga gipatukod sa mga Siswista diri sa Pilipinas. So some 200 natives were utilized by the friar in its construction under the forced labor system adopted by the colonizer. So kanang paghimo sa stone church dira sa Baclayon, dili na siya voluntarily or wala jud ni volunteer ang mga native dira no nga matawang sila himo sa simbahan, but it was under the forced labor nga gimando ni Gamboa katong gi-mention ako ganina. So kana nga katong paghimo sa simbahan, forced labor jud na siya. So if walay mahimo ang mga natives sa Nakay if dili sila mosunod or dili sila motabang sa pagama sa church, kulungon man sila sa mga colonizer that time. And so for this part, we're gonna talk about how was that stone church in Baclayon was made and what are the materials na ginamit sa paggama. So the walls are made from coral stones from the sea hewn into rough blocks and piled on top of one another using bamboo as stringings and a million egg whites as cementing material. So, di ba, mo si makadungog jud ta nga mingon sila nga ang Baclayon church kuno ang gigama dira is coral stone. And yes, it tinuod na siya. So, sa paggama sa kanang or sa kanang blocks bitaw nga makita nato sa gawas para mahimo na nang slag coral stone jud sa dagat pa jud mismo gikan and then ila ra nang gipa-smooth or ila ra nang gipa-shape into murag blocks bitaw like ila jud gipa-shape na siya. And then para malak ng duha ka blocks or mapatong ang duha ka blocks, nagamit na sila bamboo, nagbutang na sila bamboo tunga between duha ka blocks and then para malak siya, para dili siya maurog if kanang kintay na ilinog nga na. Mo to yung gihimo nilang regions tong bamboo. And then, yes, egg whites. So, million ka egg whites ang nagamit ana para mahimong cement material. So, bali mao ilang gipahimong pagahi bitaw or ilang gibutang sa tunga para mugahi or ma-intact ang duha ka blocks. And then, antud sa maka-form na jud sila anang tibuok nga church nga present dira sa Baclayon. So, over a period of time, a silver tabernacle at the main altar was added in 1810. Then the baptistry and the sacristy were constructed in 1852. So, several changes and repairs were made, but the original neoclassical architecture using Roman arches and temples has been preserved to the present. So even though daghan mga na-add nga kanang mga bag-o dira sa kanang Baclayon Church na preserve ra gihapon ang neoclassical architecture using the Roman arches and temples na preserve ra gihapon siya until now. So makita jud gihapon nato nga ang kanang present ra gihapon agdaan nga mga design dira sa Baclayon Church. So by the virtue of Presidential Decree number 260 dated August 1, 1973 as amended by Decree number 375 dated in January 14, 1974 and number 150 dated June 11, 1978, the Baclayon Church was declared a National Historical Landmark on July 27, 1994. And now we're gonna talk about ang exterior sa church, no? Like, unsay makita na to outside and inside of the church. So, as you can see, present sa screen, gawa sa church, na like, kuya siya kuya design, like, karaan na siya kaayo. Sa mata ka ng bell tower dira, na mga relics or pagdong na mo to, na may makanakita nga mga design nga mga di masabtan bitaw nga mga sculpture, mga night design mga nakatatak drawing, mga random nga kanang suwat-suwat. So, amo gipitan siya meaning but unfortunately wala may kita og mga kanang unsa to pasabot bitaw like unsa jud kanang purpose nganong gibutang to or unsay pasabot adto nga mga words kay like di jud siya masabtan. And then inside the church kanang altar nga present sa church dira sa Baclayon Church wala gyud na nila gi-change like wala nila pintali, wala nila kuha wala jud na nila dungagi og unsa sa una mo jud na karon kay it made of gold man gud nang kanang altar ana. So like para ma-preserve tong gold wala jud na nila pintali, wala jud na nila pulihi kay it's very kanang kukuyaw kayo no kay gold gyud na ginama ana nga altar. So naa pa yung mga kanang present ana nga mga kanang mga paintings babaw sa kuan, babaw sa kanang church, gikan pa sa floor andun sa babaw, mga lingi ka sa babaw, mga relics sa kilid-kilid, mga design sa bangko, design sa altar. You can see jud nga kanang it has history jud. Maklaro jud nimo nga kanang nay pinagdaanan jud nga simbahan. Like dugay na jud siya kaayo. And then if mukuan po ka sa kanang kilang kilid, like imo jung ayuhon sa siyon jud mo tan-aw ang mga blocks. Makita jud nimo siya nga coral jud. And then even though nanay uban nga like gipang-adan na nila like ila bitong gitarong giayo kay patong earthquake dako jud nag-damage ng simbahana. So dili na jud pud kurat nga like uban na pulihan na bitaw og kanang modern nga blocks kanang kuan karon kanang semento karon kay naang uban na damage naman so gipulihan nila. So, ang sa gawas pod nakapansin mig dako nga wall. So, pag tan mo ato is kuan to siya like boundary siya or murag anang alley bitaw siya between sa mga household o sa simbahan. And then underneath na tunnel de ay kanang tunnel daw kuno is mo daw naghimo nga kulungan prison cell kuno sa mga native sa una or kanang mga makasa nga mga lokal ato nila kulungon and then nakaabot jud pud mi og murag siya kanang circle abi na mo og kanang random ra nga kanang buho to labay nagbasura but then kuya na mo kay gawasanan dito siya sa tunnel under sa ubos bali adto manggawas ang mga kanang like if mapagawas na ka sa pisuhan adto de ka siya igawas abi na mo random ra siya nga kanang buho bitaw and then some of kanang gi-present na mo dira sa kuan is present na lang na or makita na lang siya sa inside sa museum. So, wala na siya nag-display sa gawas or di na siya makita sa gawas. But then, na siya sa museum, gina-preserve na nila, gitaguan na nila. Ato na lang nila gi-display kasi siguro uban kay damage ng uban, like karaan na siya ng uban, basin og i-display pa nila maguba na hinuon. So, para ma-preserve pa to nga butang para maabot pa sa next generation. Ato na lang nila gi-display sa museum. And then, pwede naman ka makasud sa museum, makatanaw ka sa mga daan jud like pinakadaan mga priceless jud nga mga material or mga priceless nga butang jud nga naa sa una nga na-preserve nila until now. So, maraton. That's for my part and I will give my floor to my group mates para discuss ang next nga kuan part.
Good day, I am Ramito Castro Mimijano and I will talk about the oldest church in the Philippines. So, unsa din ang pasabot ninyo nga oldest, guys? So, oldest rock, oldest coral, oldest people nga nagkuan na bantay dili. Okay? Dili pasabot nga oldest na sila tanan ana nagkuan mga simbolik na mo na oldest. So, ang gipasabot ani nga oldest is the Kamagwangan or kinaunhang church nga gibuild in Roman Catholic Apostolic Church in the Philippines. So, naay duha ka church ang debatable right now. The San Agustin Church in Intramuros and Basilica de Santo Niño in Cebu. First, I will talk about the San Agustin Church in Intramuros. A significant symbolic church, Spaniards in Philippine history. Built by the missionary led by Agustinians, including Andres de Urdaneta. Kinsa man ni si Urdaneta? Day kinsa man ni? So, atoan ang itakol later. So, mo ni kinunhan nga kaning church nga San Agustin naka-experience ni siya og mga severe attacks, nasunog, naguba, and na-complete ni siya in 1607. And right now, 1607 hantod karon gatindog gihapon siya. Okay? So, known po ni siya sa Baroque architecture and gi-recognize ni siya sa UNESCO as a World Heritage Site as the part of Baroque churches of the Philippines. Now, ngano ikapila man day nasunog ang San Agustin Church? Nasunog siya ikatulo. First church nganong nasunog gawa kanang gihimo man ni siya og nipa, bamboo, and cucumber, and etc. Gi-attack by Chinese pirate Limahong on Maynila. Gi-atake sa pirata. So, kanila lagi mga bandits, lagi mga bandido, terrorist, pirata. Kung once makuha nila ang ganahan nila sa usa ka lugar, pag humana na, sunugo na nila kay aron walay mahimong trace. Wala sila'y may bawaan kay kung nay magsunod, ipanghanteng maguna sila. Muna nga ilang sunugon kay aron ma-ash, but ana sila nasayop. Now, nasunog ni siya in 1574. And now, in 1583, nasunog na po siya balik. Na-burn na po siya balik caused by the altar server. Kaya ngano, napasagdaan ni siya ang usa ka kandila nga gasiga. Kay ang gamiton mag-usauna sa mga praile nga mga mga pangsiga, kandila ra jud. Yamo di ispat sa una, magkakakita ispat sa una. Kandila jud mga flammable things. And nasunog na po siya balik, gi-rebuild na po balik. And 1586, nasunog na po siya balik kay ano, tungod sa insensaryo nga baga. Katong baga naman ang insensaryo naman jud baga sa sud. Kay kuan kibadyo puwana kay altar server man ko. Then mo to pagyabo sa charcoal nga napagabaga pa hingkatay dayon kay nipa ang gigamit adto nga kuan kanang mga material ang gigamit. And so ang karon nga gigamit sa mga Fraile sa 1607 nga hantod karon ang gigamit nila nga rock is the igneous rock from Rizal. So gigamitan nila ang San Agustin Church kay sige pud kasunog lagi mo to nga i-build na nato ni og kuan igneous rock kay ang igneous rock gikan na sa molten rock sa volcanic area. So mo to gamitan na to og igneous rock ni kaya aron ko kay aron di na masunog kay kayo sa kayo god kayo sa kayo. Mo to hantod karon lig-on gyapon siya kay ang gigamit nga rock kay ang igneous rock gikan sa volcanic surrounding or location. Mo to ang San Agustin Church karon gisurvive na di siya ang World War II and karon hantod karon nagpatindog gyapon siya lig-on pa sa lig-on. And that's all. And now, I will talk about the Basilica de Santo Niño in Cebu. Kani siya, start ni iyang story in 1521 when the Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan arrived in Cebu. And di ba kay gapabautismo to si Raha Humabon og iyahang asawa nga si Queen Hana. Giyatagaan sila ni Ferdinand Magellan og Senior Santo Niño as a baptismal gift for giving them the friendship or the kindness they show. So gitagaan sila og Santo Niño kay gipakitaan mapud sila Magellan og mga kanang kindness sa kuan or mga buutan ra do sila Raha Humabon nga welcoming mo na ang mga Pilipino kay welcoming jud. So after Magellan death, the image was lost for many years. In 1565, ani nahisod si Manuel Lopez de Legazpi. Returned to Cebu. One soldier discovered the image of the Santo Niño inside a burned house, unharmed. That was considered a miracle. So, kani in 1565, himbalik si Manuel Lopez de Legazpi sa where the hindong naman siya sa Cebu. Himbalik siya sa site nga asa dapit nangutana man siya asa dapit butang Santo Niño kay iyahang dungon kay balaan daw to santos to mo to hindong siya gipangita and nakit-an sa usa ka sundalo niya nga nakakuan di ay nakalubong sa usa ka bay nga nasunog and natinga siya nganong wala jud na harm. So gi-consider nila nga milagroso, so miraculous nga object. So kung asa nila nakit-an ang kadto nga bata nga Santo Niño nga katong kuan Santo Niño adto po nila gitukod ang karon nga Basilica de Santo Niño in Cebu. Where nila nakit-an to nga nakalubong adto nila gitukod. So nakasabot na wala lagi galisod. So now nasunog di po ning Basilica de Santo Niño in Cebu. Nasunog di po ni. Dili ra po di ay ang San Agustin Church in Intramuros. Nasunog di po ni. Ano sige kasunog man ha? So nasunog ni in 1566. Okay ba na mo? 1566 the first church nasunog ni siya kay gigamitan og mo gihapon kandila wood nipa mo na mga light material dali jud na mukatay ag mga kayos then in 1600s another fire damage the church. So nasunog na pud balik kay ngano kuan kanang gisunog ni siya kay ang kanang gi-issuehan ani naay usa ka babaylan nga dili ganahan sa new religion and moto gisunog ang kani nga church or simbahan. In 1628 gisunog na pud balik kay ngano Tungod na pod sa sakristan. Wala na pod na paong ang kandila. Kay kinapasagdaan na pod lagi si Katog. Mao na. Mm. Later on, gi-officially declared a basilica in 1965 by Pope Paul VI during the 400th anniversary of Christianity in Philippines. So, moto gi-declare ni siya basilica in 1965 by Pope Paul VI. So, moto nga kaning duha ka church kay debatable jod kay hala mga Spaniards pa, mga hapit pa, mga pre-colonial pa ang mga kuan ni. So now kinsa dito si kuan Andres or uh, Ordaneta. So kadto si missionary to si nga Agustinian. Si murag leader sa mga Agustinian that time, and kadto si nagkahibaw to siya sa route Mexico to Philippines. So mo to nakahibaw siya nga ruta kay naay speculation nga nakasakay to siya before nahimo siyang priest. Apil siya sa Voyage of Magellan. So naka-apil to siya mo na murag swito-swito sila siya gamay. Mo to usap po to siya nakatabang ni Manuel Luis D. Legazpi nga makatuod sa Pilipinas, and mingdong sila sa Maynila. And siya nagmando nga Basilica de Santo Niño and the San Agustin Church itukod. Siya ang nag-lead nga itukod tong duha ka historical church. And now I will give the floor to the next reporter and my co-partner. So don't be confused kay among i-explain later og kinsa jud ay naay authority nga mo angkon nga sila ang pinaka oldest church, ang San Agustin Church ba in Intramuros or the Basilica de Santo Niño in Cebu. So stay tuned and thank you.
And now, let's go to the comparison of the three churches, the Baclayon Church, the Basilica del Santo Niño, and the San Agustin Church. For the location, Baclayon Church is located in Bohol, specifically in the town of Baclayon, which is a coastal area known for its rich heritage and old Spanish-era structures. It is one of the oldest Christian settlements in the region, making it an important historical site in the Visayas. The Basilica del Santo Niño is found in Cebu City, which is considered the oldest city in the Philippines, and Cebu is also known as the Queen City of the South, and it is where Christianity first took root in the country, making the Basilica a very significant religious landmark. The San Agustin Church is located in Manila, specifically within Intramuros or the historical walled city. Intramuros was the center of Spanish political and religious power during colonial times, so the church's location reflects its importance in Philippine history. For the year founded, Baclayon Church was founded in 1595, making it one of the oldest choral churches in the Philippines. The Basilica del Santo Niño was founded earlier, in 1565, which connects it directly to the arrival of Spanish explorers and the beginning of Christianity in the country. Meanwhile, San Agustin Church was founded in 1571, the same year Manila was established as the capital under Spanish rule. For the founders, Baclayon Church was founded by Father Juan de Torres and Father Gabriel Sanchez, who were Jesuit missionaries that helped spread Christianity in Bohol. The Basilica del Santo Niño was founded by Father Andres de Urdaneta, an Augustinian friar who played a key role in establishing Spanish missions in Cebu. On the other hand, San Agustin Church was founded by the Spanish Augustinian friars who were among the first missionaries to arrive in the Philippines and were instrumental in building churches and institutions in Manila. Now let's move on to the patron saint of each church. So the Baclayon Church and the San Agustin Church has the same patron saint, which is the Immaculate Conception. This reflects the strong devotion to the Virgin Mary introduced by the Spanish missionaries, and it also shows that Marian devotion was very important, especially in major centers of Spanish influence. On the other hand, the Basilica del Santo Niño is dedicated to Senior Santo Niño, or the Child Jesus. Now, the patron saint of Cebu, which is the Senior Santo Niño, has a very important historical background. The image of the Santo Niño was originally given by Ferdinand Magellan in 1521 to Queen Juana of Cebu as a gift during the first introduction of Christianity in the island. However, after Magellan's death, the image was lost for many years. It was later rediscovered in 1565 by Miguel Lopez de Legazpi and his men when they arrived in Cebu. So they found the image inside a house that survived a fire, which many believed was a miracle. And because of this event, the Santo Niño became a symbol of the beginning and continuity of Christianity in the Philippines. Next is the religious order. Baclayon Church was established by the Jesuits, who were known for their missionary work and efforts in spreading Christianity in rural areas like Bohol. Meanwhile, both the Basilica del Santo Niño and the San Agustin Church were managed by the Augustinians, one of the first religious orders to arrive in the Philippines and play a major role in evangelization. For its historical role, Baclayon Church served as an early mission center, helping spread Christianity in Bohol and nearby areas. The Basilica del Santo Niño is considered the start of Christianity in the Philippines, since it is connected to the first Spanish arrival and the gifting of the Santo Niño image. The San Agustin Church became the center of the Spanish Manila region, symbolizing both religious and political power during the colonial period, especially within Intramuros. And now let's move on to the architectural style of the three churches. The Baclayon Church follows a Baroque architectural style. However, its design was adapted to local conditions, especially earthquakes. That's why it has thick walls, a low and wide structure, and a solid foundation, which helped it last for centuries. The Basilica del Santo Niño also features a Baroque style but with mixed influences. It combines European design with local elements due to multiple reconstructions and cultural influences over time. Meanwhile, San Agustin Church is a strong example of Baroque architecture, known for its symmetry, detailed interiors, and artistic ceiling paintings, which reflect classic Spanish colonial design. For the damage history, Baclayon Church was heavily damaged during the 2013 Bohol earthquake, which caused parts of the structure to collapse. This shows that even strong historical buildings are still vulnerable to natural disasters. The Basilica del Santo Niño was also affected by the 2013 earthquake, but it was successfully restored, allowing it to continue serving as a major religious center. In contrast, San Agustin Church survived World War II intact. Even though most of Intramuros was destroyed during the bombing, this highlights that the strength of its construction and its historical importance. Now for the UNESCO status. Baclayon Church was listed as former tentative site, meaning it was considered for UNESCO recognition because of its historical value, but it has not yet been officially included. The Basilica del Santo Niño is declared as a national cultural treasure, which means it is a highly protected and recognized within the Philippines. Meanwhile, the San Agustin Church is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, giving it global recognition as one of the most important historical and cultural landmarks, not just in the Philippines but in the world. And lastly is for the famous features. The Baclayon Church is known as one of the oldest churches in Bohol, and it represents the early spread of Christianity in the Visayas. The Basilica del Santo Niño is famous for the image of the Santo Niño, which is believed to be miraculous and is one of the oldest religious relics in the country. It also attracts millions of devotees, especially during the Sinulog Festival. And finally, San Agustin Church is known as the only church in Intramuros that survived World War II, making it a symbol of resilience and preservation of history.
So to formally conclude, the belief that Baclayon Church is the oldest church in the Philippines is based on a historical misconception. This idea was influenced by the inscription of the year 1595 on its facade, which led many to assume that the present stone church was built during that time. However, careful historical analysis shows that this is unlikely. During 1595, places like Tagbilaran were still small settlements where stone construction was not yet practiced. It is more reasonable to conclude that what existed at that time was only a simple chapel made of wood and bamboo, built by Spanish settlers. The more permanent stone church structure came much later. Because of this, the claim that Baclayon Church is the oldest depends on how we define term oldest church. If we refer to the earliest foundation, the title belongs to the Basilica Minore del Santo Niño, established in 1565. If we consider the oldest surviving structure, it is San Agustin Church, completed in 1606. Meanwhile, Baclayon Church, built in 1727, is recognized as one of the oldest coral stone churches in the Philippines. Overall, Baclayon Church is not the oldest church in the country, but its importance remains significant due to its rich history, unique materials, and cultural value.